AITA for moving on and thriving after my fiancée dumped me for someone her family preferred. I, 29, met my ex-fiancée Natalie, 26, in a completely ridiculous way. I was sitting at the university library at 2 a.m., bleary-eyed after 12 hours of nonstop coding, when this girl with perfectly styled hair and a coffee in hand tripped and spilled her latte on my laptop. Most people would have exploded, but I just said at least now my code had some flavor. She burst out laughing instead of running away. 4 years together, engaged for 8 months, for years believing we had something real. I had saved for 6 months to buy the ring I proposed with. She said yes, cried with joy, and posted photos on social media with captions speaking of eternity. She came to my place in my third-floor walk-up apartment, barely 600 square feet in a building with what they call character. In other words, everything was broken, and the landlord didn't care. But Natalie seemed to love it. We decorated with string lights from Target and posters I had collected over the years. And then there was my cat, Cosmo. Yes, obviously. My tabby cat rescued from a shelter who had the annoying habit of knocking everything off the furniture. But every night, without fail, he came to snuggle between us on the bed. Natalie claimed to be more of a dog person, but I often caught her having real conversations with Cosmo when she thought I wasn't there. As for Natalie's family, her parents never said they hated me openly. Instead, they practiced the technique of 1,000 small cuts. Her mother always gave me this scornful look. Her father spoke to her about my little computer project with the tone used to ask a child if he still has his imaginary friend. It was such a supportive atmosphere. Family dinners were high art, a play where I was both the audience and the joke. Yet, back then, Natalie seemed different to me. She rolled her eyes at the drama of their country club and mocked their snobbery. We ate Chinese takeout on my futon, watched Netflix on my old laptop that took 5 minutes to load an episode, and she told me money didn't matter. Suffice it to say that was completely false, but I am getting ahead of myself. The first real crack in our relationship appeared 6 months before the end. Natalie's college roommate was getting married. I had saved for months to rent a decent tuxedo and buy a wedding gift. Since we were engaged, I thought it would be fun, a taste of our own wedding. But arriving at the reception, it was another world. Ice sculptures, a live band, and champagne that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Everyone looked like models out of a magazine, and I felt like I was in the wrong movie. Natalie, obviously, was in her element. She chatted with her former classmates, all employed in investment banks or consulting firms, talking about their new apartments in trendy neighborhoods and their overpriced vacations. I stood there sipping a single glass, trying to chat with people who lost all interest as soon as I mentioned my startup. Natalie had expressly asked not to be seated with her college friends because they were exhausting. But weirdly, we ended up at a table full of her parents' friends, rich couples who spent dinner talking about their stock portfolios and real estate investments. When they asked what I did, I tried to explain my startup in layman's terms. Big mistake. A man literally laughed and said, "You still play with computers. Maybe it's time to get a real job. No, especially now that you are getting married, you need to grow up a bit." And the worst part was that Natalie didn't defend me. She looked embarrassed and changed the subject by talking about the bride's dress. Later, in the car, when I wanted to talk about it, she told me I was too sensitive and that I should have played the game better. The second incident happened a few weeks later when her mother invited me for coffee without Natalie. Just the two of us. We met in an upscale cafe in her neighborhood, the kind of place where a simple latte costs $8 and where everyone seems to be negotiating contracts. She arrived 15 minutes late, dressed head to toe in designer clothes, without a word of apology. She went straight to the point. "I thought about your situation," she said as if my life were a file to be settled, "and I have a few contacts who could help find something more stable." She pulled out a folder filled with job offers, entry-level positions in banks, insurance companies, and corporate offices. The kind of 9 to 5 job that would have killed all my passion. "These are real careers," she explained, handing me the papers listing benefits, 401k matching, and opportunities for advancement. "You could start at the bottom and climb the ladder like Sebastian." I remained speechless. "You want me to abandon my startup to become what? A claims adjuster?" She looked at me like a child refusing to eat his vegetables. "I want you to be realistic about your future and Natalie's. She deserves security, not fairy tales. The conversation got heated from there. She never yelled, never lost her cool. But every word was calculated to make me feel small and unfit. The worst part was when I talked to Natalie about it. She was neither surprised nor angry that her mother had ambushed me. She just said, "She just wants to help you. You could at least look at her offers, just in case." That is when I knew the poison had already started to act. The end began with what Natalie called a simple family dinner. She asked me to wear a jacket. When I arrived at their estate, and yes, one can really call it an estate, I understood that it would not be a quiet dinner. The driveway looked like a luxury car dealership, BMWs, Mercedes, and a few Autos. My 2008 Honda Civic with its dented bumper and the check engine light on since the Obama era looked out of place in the scenery. And the worst part was that it wasn't just family. Natalie's father had invited his associates and their sons. Guys who all looked like they came out of a LinkedIn catalog, Ivy League graduates, summer internships at Goldman Sachs, fathers who play golf with senators. The kind of people for whom summer is a verb. Conversations flowed naturally as if they were all reading the same script. Investment strategies, vacations in Europe, real estate portfolios. I was there, all proud to have finally treated myself to name-brand cereal instead of the supermarket version. Fascinating. Then came the targeted questions asked with surgical precision. "So, you are still working on your little computer project?" asked Natalie's father. "It's a startup," I corrected, trying not to sound defensive. "We are still in the development phase, but we are progressing well." I didn't specify that our last meeting with venture capitalists had been a disaster, nor that my partner, Andrew, and I were doing 80-hour weeks to fix a bug in our prototype. A bug that crashed the system as soon as a file larger than 50 megabytes was uploaded. Technical problems aside, we were broke and on edge. One of his friends, a guy with perfect teeth and a February tan who screamed, "I spend my winters in Florida," sneered as if I had just stated that the earth was flat. "Tech is so unstable these days," he said. "Are you sure it's a good investment of your time? A plan B wouldn't hurt." The condescending tone was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. And the worst part was that Natalie said not a word to defend me. Usually, she always intervened, said how passionate I was or that she believed in our project, but this time, nothing. And then they brought in Sebastian. Natalie's mother introduced him as if he were the Messiah. Sebastian had just become a junior partner in a large corporate law firm. Bachelor's at Princeton, law at Yale. A brilliant mind, apparently. Sebastian was everything I wasn't. Tall, dressed to the nines, the kind of guy whose suits are necessarily custom-made and who never needs to check his balance before buying a coffee. He talked about his recent bonus as if it were trivial, about his new condo in the right neighborhood, and about his 5-year plan to become a senior partner. And Natalie? She literally drank in his words. She asked him questions about his work, laughed at his mediocre jokes, and showed more interest in his career than she ever had in mine. Every question she asked him sounded like a small betrayal. I didn't say 10 words all evening. Every time I tried to intervene in the conversation, someone listened to me politely for 5 seconds before redirecting the subject to Sebastian's achievements or other success stories. I saw Natalie transforming before my eyes into someone I no longer recognized. The girl who once mocked pretentious people was becoming one of them. When we returned to my apartment that night, something had changed. She complained about the elevator being broken for months. She grimaced when Cosmo jumped on the bed, which had never bothered her before. She mentioned the size of the bathroom as if she were seeing the place for the first time. That is when I knew it was over. I just didn't know she was going to make it official so fast. A week later, Natalie came to my place after work, still dressed in her business casual outfit from her marketing job at her father's friend's company. A job she had obtained without even interviewing. But that is another story about the power of good last names. She sat across from me at our little IKEA table, the one where we had shared so many takeout dinners, game nights with friends, and late discussions about our future. But that conversation was not going to be one of those. "We need to talk," she said, and I immediately saw that she had rehearsed her speech. "I've thought a lot," she continued without looking at me, "about us, about my future, about what I need." I knew very well where she was going, but I let her speak. "I love you, but I need stability. I can't wait anymore for you to make up your mind. My family made me understand that I need someone who is already at that stage. Someone who can offer me the life I deserve. Someone like Sebastian? I said dryly. She didn't even have the decency to look surprised that I made the connection. Yes, someone like Sebastian. And there, her mask fell. Look, I tried to make it work, she said, pointing to my cramped little apartment as if it were proof of my moral failure. I really tried, but I can no longer pretend that this is the life I want. Living in a dilapidated building, worrying about money, dating someone who can't even take me to a decent place. This was the same person who said she loved our cozy nights in, who claimed not to care about fancy restaurants and expensive things. You are 29, and you still play with your computers in your room as if you were 19, she continued with an increasingly harsh tone. Sebastian owns a condo downtown. He takes me to restaurants where they recognize him. He doesn't need to save for months to buy me a decent ring. That last sentence hit me like a punch. I had worked double shifts for 6 months to buy her engagement ring. It wasn't huge, but it was authentic, and I was proud of it. Wow, I didn't know that's what you thought about it. For years. Natalie, and you tell me this now? Why waste all this time? She continued. I gave you 4 years to get your act together, to become someone worth staying for. But you are still the same broke dreamer I met in college. Except now, you are older, and it's just pathetic. After a few heated exchanges, the argument escalated, and she did something I will never forget. She tore the engagement ring from her finger and threw it at me. It bounced off my chest before falling to the floor. Here, take back your ring. Cheap, she spat with disgust. Sebastian is already talking about buying me a real one. From Tiffany's, not a second-rate jeweler. I stood there staring at the ring on the floor. The ring I had worked so hard for. The one she had shed tears of joy over a few months earlier. The one that represented everything I hoped we would build together. You know what is pathetic? I said, standing up. Pretending to love someone for 4 years while keeping score in secret. Pretending to be someone else because you are too cowardly to own your superficiality from the start. Her face turned red. At least I'm not wasting my life chasing an impossible dream. You're right, I answered, picking up the ring. You aren't wasting your life, you just wasted mine. She grabbed her bag, suddenly in a hurry to leave after pouring out her venom. Sebastian is picking me up at 8, she tossed out. The final blow. She wanted me to know she was moving straight from our breakup to a date with her upgrade. Perfect, I said, opening the door for her. I hope you will be very happy together. 2 days later, 2 days, she made her relationship with Sebastian official on Instagram. Barely a week after our breakup, they were posing in matching outfits at a luxury resort. His arm around her waist, her bright smile. Caption, I found my forever. Meanwhile, I was still sleeping on the side of the bed she used to occupy. I was still finding her hair ties everywhere. Half of her stuff was still lying around my apartment because she hadn't had time to come pick it up yet. The engagement ring sat on my dresser, a daily reminder of my naivety. I would like to be able to say that I turned my heartbreak into immediate success, that I became a tech prodigy by sheer will. But that happens in the movies. Real life is much messier. I sank. My startup sank a month after our breakup. Our investors pulled out after the catastrophic failure of our flagship demo. The app crashed 3 times in 5 minutes, and when it finally worked, it was so slow that everyone in the room started looking at their phones. Andrew, my partner, accepted a job at Microsoft 2 weeks later. I couldn't blame him. He had student loans and a girlfriend who really supported his career. Me, I found myself alone with a dead company, rent I could no longer pay, and savings that were melting faster than free pizza on a college campus. I had to give up my apartment, but my friend Lucas saved me. This guy I had known since freshman year of college who never understood what I saw in Natalie, but who had always supported me regardless. His apartment was even smaller than mine, a studio where the living room also served as an office. But he had cleared half his closet without me asking anything and allowed Cosmo and me to sleep in his spare room. Lucas's reaction when I arrived at his place with my life in trash bags. Dude, I always knew she was demanding, but that she actually said your ring was cheap? That thing cost more than my car. After a pause. Okay, my car is a piece of junk, but still, that is a true friend. Meanwhile, Natalie's perfect life scrolled by like a montage on social media. Vacations in places I had only seen in movies, dinners in restaurants where the prices aren't listed on the menu. Every post seemed personal to me, as if she were saying, "You see, This is what I deserve. This is what you could never give me. The lowest point came when I ran into Natalie and Sebastian in a downtown cafe. I was there to pick up an Uber Eats order. That was my life now. My car's AC had been broken for 3 months. I couldn't fix it. So, I drove in 95-degree heat with the windows down, sweating in the last clean shirt I had left. My phone was at 15% battery after a 10-hour day, and I still had 4 deliveries left if I wanted to reach my daily goal. They were there sitting outside, looking like they came out of a lifestyle magazine. Natalie had this new haircut, one of those expensive styles that look natural but surely took 2 hours and cost more than I earned in a week. Sebastian wore sunglasses that I am sure were worth more than everything I was wearing combined. They were laughing at something, holding hands across the table, the perfect image of the couple living their best life. Then Sebastian saw me first. Well, he said loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. Look who is here, still delivering. His smile was pure malice. It wasn't an accidental recognition. He was enjoying it. Natalie looked up and saw me standing in my wrinkled Uber t-shirt, holding a bag of food that cost more than my weekly groceries. For a split second, I thought I saw a flash pass over her face. Guilt, perhaps, but she smiled, really smiled. The condescension was suffocating. I grabbed the bag and left without another word. But I heard Sebastian say just loud enough for me to hear, "We dodged a bullet, huh?" and Natalie's laugh in response. That moment broke something in me. Standing there, in the summer heat, soaked in my uniform, listening to my ex-fiancée and her new boyfriend mock my failures, it was the last day I allowed myself to be a joke. I went back to Lucas's apartment that night. I deleted all social media apps from my phone and told him what happened. His response, "Dude, that guy looks like the type to think mayonnaise is spicy." And he laughed. Nah, man. It is time to show these rich kids how the real world works. I cut everything off. Social media, distractions, self-pity, negative people. I went into total reconstruction mode as if my life depended on it. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. For hours a night if I was lucky, days for Uber Eats, evenings for my night shift stocking shelves at the supermarket, and every free moment to rebuild my startup from scratch. But this time, it was different. I learned to be smart. No more chasing investors with half-baked ideas and flashy presentations. I learned to bootstrap, to build something real before asking for money from anyone. No more easy trust in people. I kept my circle tight, just Lucas and a few loyal friends who had proven their worth when things got hard. Lucas was incredible through all this. He brought me coffee during my late-night coding sessions. He made sure I ate something other than protein bars and never complained that I was turning his living room into a war zone. He even helped me land my first corporate clients thanks to his contacts at work. He asked for nothing in return. He just wanted to see me succeed. For 2 years, I completely disappeared from Natalie's world. I had no idea what she was doing, with whom, or if she was happy. And honestly, I didn't care. While she played at the perfect life with Sebastian, I worked harder than ever. My next startup idea was born from my previous failure. Instead of attempting a revolutionary consumer app, I pivoted to B2B software, specifically contract analysis for law firms powered by AI. Lucas's take on this pivot. Wait, you are creating software to replace lawyers? Dude, you are going to save the world and get revenge at the same time. Supervillain level, that's intense. It was boring, unglamorous work that no one posts about on social media, but it solved a real problem I had encountered during my first startup while navigating legal documents. Small firms were drowning in paperwork, spending hours on tasks that could be automated. Our software could analyze contracts, detect potential issues, and flag important clauses in seconds instead of several hours. And most importantly, people were willing to pay for it. Then everything changed. It started small, a mention in a specialized publication, a testimonial from a satisfied client that opened doors. Word of mouth in legal circles announced a new tool capable of doing the work of a junior associate at a fraction of the cost. Suddenly, I wasn't chasing clients anymore. They were calling me. My team was incredible. People who believed in the vision, who worked as hard as I did, became like a family. Andrew even wanted to come back at that stage. Microsoft was good, but he missed the startup atmosphere. I told him we were good, not out of spite, but because my current team was solid. In a few months, we experienced rapid growth. We signed a contract with one of the 5 largest law firms in the country, which led to other contracts, more recognition, and interested investors. The company that had started in Lucas's living room was now opening offices in London and Singapore. We were in full global expansion, disrupting a sector that had remained unchanged for decades. But here is the irony. Our biggest disruption concerned corporate law, specifically financial services law, the exact field where Sebastian worked. Our AI tools rendered junior associates obsolete, automating the drudgery on which people like Sebastian had built their early careers. When I realized this link, Lucas almost choked on his coffee laughing. Wait, you're telling me your company is literally putting trust fund lawyers out of work and the wannabe Captain America has no idea? The first time I saw Natalie again was at a professional conference. Not as an attendee this time, but as a keynote speaker. The previous year, I couldn't have afforded the entry fee. Now, I was on stage talking about the impact of AI on legal services in front of an audience of executives and investors. After my speech, while shaking hands to close deals, I spotted Natalie's parents on the other side of the room. Their change in attitude was immediate and obvious. Her mother's glass froze halfway to her lips. Her father, who had once ridiculed my little computer project at a dinner, gave me a slow, respectful nod. Then I saw Natalie. She was standing to the side, frozen, looking at me as if she had seen a ghost. She looked good but different. The carefree confidence she displayed on her Instagram posts was gone. She seemed smaller somehow. We didn't approach each other. We didn't speak, but I saw the exact moment reality hit her. The moment she understood that the pathetic guy she had left behind was now more prosperous than anyone in her family's social circle. Lucas's text when I told him I saw her. Did she look like she realized she missed her chance? Please, tell me she looked like she realized she missed her chance. From that night on, everything accelerated. Word of mouth travels fast in certain circles, especially when someone goes from zero to hero in a few years. A few weeks after that conference, I started receiving invitations to events I had never heard of. Natalie's father personally contacted me to invite me to one of these events. I accepted not because I sought their approval, but because I knew exactly what it was about. They wanted to be associated with my success. When I arrived at the event, late with style because why not, I immediately spotted Natalie and Sebastian. Sebastian looked different, stressed. His shoulders were tense. He checked his phone incessantly and had that haunted look that comes from knowing your world is collapsing without being able to stop it. His firm was losing clients to companies like mine. Traditional firms struggled to compete with AI-powered efficiency, and the old guard was panicking. They tried to adapt but failed, losing business to younger, more innovative companies capable of delivering better results faster and cheaper. Sebastian probably still didn't know I was behind these problems, but he was certainly feeling the pressure. Meanwhile, Natalie knew exactly who I was. When our eyes met across the room, I saw the same expression as at the conference, but worse, pure, undeniable regret. A week after the event, she reached out. I had deleted her number years ago, but her message came through. Hi, it's been a while. I was wondering if we could meet again, just talk. I ignored it. Then she made a desperate move. She appeared at my office. My team had left for the day, and I was finishing some emails when security called. There is a woman asking to see you. She says it's important. I didn't need him to describe her. I hesitated to ask security to escort her out, but then I realized this was my moment. The moment I had subconsciously prepared for since the day she left my life. So I let her in. She walked into my corner office, hesitant, looking at the modern furniture, the awards hanging on the wall, so different from our old cramped apartment. Her confidence had totally disappeared. The condescending attitude had been replaced by something I had never seen in her before, sincere nervousness. Hi, she said softly, giving me a sad smile. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, and said nothing, just observed her nervous gestures under my gaze. She took a deep breath. I was wrong about everything. I listened to my family and threw away something real. She bit her lip, searching my face for any reaction. I miss you. Us, she said, nodding quickly, hope shining in her eyes. I know I hurt you, but maybe we could start over. Try again. I looked at her for a long time, and then I laughed. Not angry, not bitter, just genuinely amused. Start over. I repeated, shaking my head. We started over the day you chose them over me. She winced, but I wasn't finished. You didn't want me when I was broke. You didn't believe in me when I was struggling. You called me pathetic and left me for someone with a better bank account. But now that I have succeeded, now you want to come back. Her face crumbled as my words hit their mark. I stood up, buttoning my tailored suit jacket. Natalie, I don't think about you. I don't miss you, and I certainly don't need you. That is when the office door opened and my girlfriend walked in. Sophie, a brilliant product designer I had met at a tech conference and who had believed in our company when we were still working in Lucas's apartment. A beautiful and intelligent woman who made Natalie look like a superficial Instagram influencer. Natalie's face went pale. I turned to Sophie with a warm smile before looking at Natalie again. You see, I found someone on my level. It just wasn't you. I walked Natalie to the elevator and watched the doors close between us. It should have been a victory, but honestly, it was just like closing a book I had finished reading years ago. But that wasn't the end. It was only the first movement of the final game. A few weeks later, rumors began to circulate in legal circles. Sebastian's firm was in serious danger. My company's AI-powered tools were systematically replacing traditional legal services at an alarming rate. We were faster, cheaper, more accurate, and more efficient. We could do in minutes what they billed their clients hundreds of dollars an hour for. Sebastian's firm was losing money trying to compete with technology they didn't understand and couldn't match. Instead of adapting, the old guard partners were panicking, making desperate moves, and losing even more clients. I heard from industry contacts that Sebastian was totally cracking behind the scenes, working over 90 hours a week, yelling at junior associates who were desperately trying to retain their biggest clients. Lucas's comment, "So the guy who mocked you for playing with computers is now being destroyed by computers." Investors were pulling their funding, seeing the firm as an outdated dinosaur in a market it no longer understood. And the best part was that Sebastian still hadn't figured out that I was the one behind his career collapse. While Sebastian was collapsing professionally, Natalie's parents went into damage control mode. They had treated me for years like a broke loser unworthy of their daughter. Desperate attempts at reconnection began immediately. Natalie's mother sent polite emails congratulating me on my success. Her father mentioned me in interviews, calling me one of the most promising entrepreneurs of the decade. He invited me to professional events, presenting them as networking opportunities. I ignored everything. Then her father called me directly. I answered out of pure curiosity. "I think we should talk, son," he said in a warm tone, "about business opportunities, potential partnership, water under the bridge, you know." I let him talk about synergy and collaboration for a few minutes before he got to the real point. "Look, Natalie made a mistake. I know, we all know. But she is going through a hard time, and I think of you too." I hung up in the middle of his sentence. There was no excuse, no accountability, just selfish damage control. That was the last time I took their calls. The moment Sebastian finally realized who was behind his fall was absolutely perfect. I was speaking at another professional conference, this time on a panel regarding the future of AI and law. The CEO of a major firm publicly congratulated my company. Honestly, this changes the game. Some of the biggest traditional firms are struggling to keep up. The camera panned the audience, and there, Sebastian, face completely drained, his expression a mix of shock and dawning horror. You could see exactly the moment it clicked. I wasn't just his ex's loser ex. I was the man systematically destroying his career. That night, he cracked. I received a text from a mutual contact. "Bro, Sebastian just lost it at a partner meeting. You have to hear this." Apparently, during a firm-wide strategy session, one of the senior partners brought up my company as an example of what they had to compete with. Sebastian completely lost his composure. He started screaming that I was just a lucky fraud, that my company would collapse, that traditional law would always win in the end. The problem was that everyone looked at him as if he had lost his mind, realizing that Sebastian was not the future of their firm. I was the future, and he was the past. But I had one last move to play. A few months later, my company was ready for its biggest acquisition yet. We were buying a small but very influential law firm that was a direct competitor to Sebastian's. It wasn't just business, it was checkmate. Once the deal was finalized, we immediately poached several of Sebastian's biggest clients. In 6 months, His firm was forced to merge with a larger competitor just to survive. Sebastian went from young associate to simple employee, probably performing the same grunt work he arrogantly bragged about escaping years earlier. The golden boy to whom everything had been handed on a silver platter was now just a lawyer struggling to stay relevant in a sector he had outgrown. But it wasn't over. Natalie decided to make one last desperate attempt. 3 weeks after the official merger of Sebastian's firm, Natalie returned to my office. But this time, it was different. It wasn't the nervous and hopeful woman from before. It was pure desperation. It was a Friday evening around 7 p.m. Most of my team had left for happy hour, but I was staying late to finish some contracts. The security guard called, hesitant. "Sir, there is a woman here. She is very upset. She says she needs to see you urgently." "Send her up," I said, knowing who it was. When the elevator doors opened, I barely recognized her. Gone was the groomed and elegant woman I knew. Her hair was messy, her makeup dripping as if she had been crying. She was wearing jeans and a wrinkled sweater. I had never seen her so casual, even when we were together. "Thank you for seeing me," she said, rushing into my office uninvited. I called, texted. "Why don't you answer?" I remained seated behind my desk. Calm. "Because we have nothing to say to each other, Natalie." "Yes, we have something to say to each other," she almost shouted. "I left Sebastian. I left you. It's over." I raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. His firm collapsed. He lost everything, and all he did was blame me. He said it was my fault for leaving you, that I ruined our lives. She started pacing frantically. "So I'm done. I'm done with all that." "Good for you," I said flatly. She stopped and looked at me. "Don't you understand? I am free now. We can be together again. We can start over." I almost laughed. "Start over?" "I made a mistake," she said, her voice sounding increasingly desperate. "The biggest mistake of my life. I never should have left you. You were right about my family, Sebastian, everything. But now I am here, and I choose you." She approached my desk, eyes wild with despair. "I know you still love me. What we had was real. True love doesn't disappear." "No," I said, standing up. "True love doesn't disappear, but what we had wasn't true love." Her face crumbled. "That's not true. You left me as soon as something better came along. That's not love, that's convenience." I was confused. My family pressured me. I was young and stupid. "You were 26, Natalie. You weren't a child." She started crying uncontrollably. "Please, I beg you. I have nothing left. My parents don't even answer my calls anymore. You are all I have." "I am nothing to you," I said coldly. "I am also with someone else. You need to move on." She grabbed my arm, her grip desperate. I was wrong about the ring. It was beautiful. I was just scared. I pulled my arm back. "Don't do that." But she couldn't stop. "I will do anything. I will work. I will change everything about me. Just please, take me back. I love you. I have always loved you." "No, Natalie, you need to leave." "No," she shouted. "Don't you understand? I made a mistake, just one. You can't punish me forever." So, I called security. "What are you doing?" "Security?" She lunged for the phone to stop me. "Don't you dare. You can't kick me out like this." I easily moved the phone away and dialed the number. "Security. I need someone to escort a visitor out of my office." "You bastard," she screamed. "I loved you. I gave you the best years of my life." Marco, the guard, arrived. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me." "No, you don't understand," she shouted at Marco, then turned to me. "I offer you everything, my whole life. How can you throw that away like that?" I looked at her and said nothing. Then Marco guided her to the elevator while she continued to scream and cry. "That bitch is with you just for the money. When you are old and alone and she has taken everything, you will remember that I was the one who really loved you." The elevator doors closed, and she was gone. I stayed a moment in the silence of my office, and then I texted Lucas. I just had security escort Natalie out. She completely lost control. His response was immediate. "Bro, please, did someone film that? That sounds like perfect content. Ex-fiancée has epic meltdown at tech office would get millions of views." I couldn't help but laugh. Even after all this madness, Lucas knew exactly how to put things in perspective. In the end, I didn't need to destroy Natalie's life. She did it herself by trading true love for status symbols. When that status disappeared, she found herself with nothing, not even her dignity. The best revenge wasn't destroying their lives. It was simply living mine better than them. Comment: I really hope this story resonated with you today, because it reminds us that our value is never defined by someone else's opinion. Sometimes, the most painful rejections are actually redirections to something much better. It is easy to feel bitter when people treat us poorly, but the best response is to focus on your own growth. True loyalty is revealed during the hard times, not during the champagne toasts. You deserve people who choose you when you have nothing, not just when you reach the top. Building a life you are proud of is far more satisfying than trying to prove a point to those who doubted you. Please remember that walking away with your dignity is a victory in itself. Healing happens when you stop looking back and start pouring that energy into your future. Keep moving forward and trust that the right people will find you when you are your authentic self. I am rooting for every single one of you to find your own peace and success. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.